Okay, we was talking about Dhammanupassana Satipatthana. To recapitulate, Kayanupassana, the body foundation of mindfulness, basic object is the posture. The key to it is watching bodily sensations. And the deeper object are the four great Mahabhutas, great elements. Number 4 is the earth element. But from what we are doing, we're paying attention a lot to the wind. Vedananupassana Satipatthana comes about through contact. The first object is pain. Good friend. The deeper object is neutral feeling. And the key to it is acceptance, because pain is the main thing. Following it is distako, detachment from pleasure. Then when you come to Chittanupassana, this mindfulness of consciousness, the main thing that you start with is the mindful presence. Key to it is the continuity of mindfulness. And the deeper object is the change of the mind in a deeper level of concentration. And for Dhammanupassana, what is it? Any natural phenomena. And the key to it is perception of non-self. That means the first insight knowledge. And when you go deeper, the object is what? Conditioning. Because Dhammanupassana covers all dhammas, all phenomena. The development of each is too exhaustive. So you judge the flow and development from the development of the mindfulness. For example, you're traveling on a journey very far away and there's so many complicated roads. Oh, the more complicated roads that you travel around here is you travel through Milano. Really? No, you see it coming from the horse's mouth. Do you get lost sometimes, Giancarlo? Do you get lost sometimes in Milano?
Oh yes.
You see, he was taxi driver, he also can get lost. So how do you judge whether you can get past Milano or not? By the skill of the driver. He knows how to go with the flow. This is the flow of the river of no return, traffic in Milano. If you follow the traffic in Milano, where do you end up in? Giancarlo? So that's why you judge by the development of your mindfulness. That's why when people come for meditation, they say, I see this, I see that, I see this, that. You're actually not so interested in that. You're looking more at your mindfulness. So you're looking at this. Yeah? So we go to this generally. First is the arising of mindfulness dependent on various conditions. So we revision again. What are the conditions for the arising of mindfulness? Can you remember? For example, in the Satipatthana commentary, I don't know whether I remember it. One is the undertaking of the different types of practices that give rise to mindfulness, such as the Satipatthana as described in the Satipatthana Sutta. Avoiding people who are not mindful. You know who is not mindful? Those who break their precepts. Even though they say, well, I don't observe any precepts, but you're still telling lies and you're still drinking too much beer. Take for example a person who, it's interesting because I think somewhere the Buddha did mention a person who is capable of telling lies is capable of doing anything. Another interesting thing is, what was that? Like certain things like smoking, drinking a little bit of beer, seems fairly harmless. But still it represents a certain kind of weakness. So anyway, avoiding such types of people. Thirdly is associating with people who are mindful. But whether they want to associate with you is a different matter. Of course, you must not be one who is fully within the first category of not mindful. At least you show that you are trying to be mindful. And the fourth is there's a strong volition, a will to develop this mindfulness. To this I would add some things. At one time I was in Hamburgo. I went to a sitting group. This is a place where people who meditate come together. They may be practicing different types of meditation. So the leader of this group is a Zen practitioner. Then after the talk he says, mindfulness is something spontaneous. It comes automatically without any reason. No. You just don't know the cause. Like the Buddha did mention that, like what Asaji told to Moggallana. He says that everything arises from a cause. And when the cause is not there, it ceases. When he heard that, immediately he got enlightenment. Moggallana, then after that he told it to Sariputta. I can't remember which one first. I think it was Moggallana. So everything arises from a cause. When that happens, I've created a situation for myself. I have to tell him the cause. You can tell him, no, there's a cause, without telling him what's the cause. So first, I said, it is the power of the object. Because certain objects brings about mindfulness. Certain objects brings about defilements. Second is the life continuum, Gacita. Because the human life continuum has the potential it's a result of good karma, and so it has a potential for mindfulness. And that's why if you have a lot of problem and you manage to fall asleep, you wake up, you feel better. And that's why there's such a thing as sleep therapy. Wouldn't you like to have sleep therapy? You're made to sleep hours and hours every day, no? People with mental problems, they get better. But for you, people who are meant for higher things, it's a waste of time. Then next one is, I would say, the will to practice and arouse mindfulness. Especially when you talk of higher levels of mindfulness, the will and effort must be made. For example, somebody asks, well, I can get peace of mind. After work, I take a holiday and I go and take my children to walk into the parco. I feel peace of mind. Why should I have to sit and meditate? Why? Because when you meditate, the mindfulness and peace becomes even stronger and deeper. For example, we say that it doesn't take too much to break a man down. You take somebody, a friend, put him in the room, lock him, cut off all his senses. After sometimes he goes a bit crazy. You meditate before, it may last a bit longer. But if you get enlightened, then of course it doesn't matter. In fact, you kind of like it. Then the fourth is the influence of past practice. That means you have been practicing before, so there is some kind of tendency, strong tendency of you to be mindful.
This life or the last life?
This life and next life, both. For example, you've been meditating a lot before, and when the danger comes, or when you're about to die, suddenly the mindfulness will come out. And some of them, they tell me that at that time, the mindfulness that come out is even stronger than in a retreat. But of course, in a retreat, you can see if you have been on the retreat before, then the mindfulness comes back quickly. And even if in daily life and you have been practicing very often, it can come back. The deeper level of experiences and concentration also comes in the daily life. So a person may be driving, then suddenly the concentration comes down. All the sensations, you have to go to the side and park and watch the sensations and then go. In that case, you need to practice clear comprehension and to be able to control this arising of these strong experiences. So these are mindfulness arising depending on various conditions. What we are more interested in is the mindfulness that is more involved with the practice. But in the beginning, you can't be too specific. The more, the better, before you become more specialized. Then, of course, when mindfulness is there, the arising of mindfulness depending on conscious views such as contemplative methods. So this type of mindfulness is definitely stronger than the first types. The first one, they come out and you don't know why they come out. But in the second one, you see clearly that because of your will and because of your practice, this mindfulness comes out and it is much stronger. Then of course you will be able to distinguish the different types of mindfulness and how to be mindful with the different objects. For example, you know the samatha meditation, what type of mindfulness it is, and the vipassana meditation, what type of mindfulness it is. And the type of mindfulness involved with the balancing of faculties. That is the energetic mindfulness and the more tranquil type of mindfulness. And the mindfulness that is more balanced. In short, you become more familiar with the Satipatthana mindfulness. So mindfulness in the body foundation, mindfulness as the feeling foundation, mindfulness as in the consciousness foundation, and mindfulness as in the Dhamma foundation. Because when you deal with all these different types of objects, each object has its particular nature, and so you need to learn how to be mindful in those situations. For example, when you start practicing mindfulness, one of the important things for the continuity is balance. For example, when you're practicing body foundation mindfulness, it's like you're riding on an animal. For example, a horse. You got to be balanced. You must be able to sit on the horse properly. And that's why when you want to build up mindfulness, you have to walk slower. You go too fast, you may be thrown off the horse. Oh, mindfulness fly. In places where they practice mindfulness, they have to climb the steps because the meditation hall is on the top floor. So somewhere along the line, they left the mindfulness downstairs. The horse is thrown you. Practicing Vedananupassana, also you need balance because it is like sailing on the water. Like watching pain is like a raft with storm. The best of the boat will rock, swept this side, swept that side. So you have to hold on to your mindfulness. Mindfulness here means balance, to stay on the boat. Then when you start going to the Cittanupassana, like flying, you know how to fly? Learn to drive an aeroplane. You have to balance. When you're not balanced, you have this turbulence. At least in the horse or the pig, you're still not too far from the earth. But when you're in the air, usually when there's air crash, there's no survival. So you want to do Cittanupassana, mind throw you, don't know where you fly. So that's why you have to establish strong mindfulness on the body and feelings before you go deep into the consciousness. And so there is this mindfulness and stability is important. Then after that, when you do mindfulness of this body, feelings, then you go to the mental objects. So you're also building up mindfulness and mental objects. So many types, the Dhamma phenomena, so many. But so you have to choose and categorize things that you need to be mindful of. For example, the Satipatthana Sutta gives certain examples by certain groups, and because of each group has a particular character or particular aspect that can be developed. So when a person undergoes the training of the Satipatthana, the mindfulness becomes very fast, very precise, very thorough, like what is described as by Sayadaw Pandita, like the water that has been absorbed into every fiber of the cloth. And if I may add, that the textile is stationary, but in the Dhamma it is dynamic. Then when you're very thorough with that, at least, then you go into the development of mindfulness from the ultimate realities. And then further, you go further, then you go to the three universal characteristics. This is where the mindfulness becomes transcendent, starting with the first insight knowledge, as mentioned here, as the ultimate realities. And so, as we mentioned yesterday, that this level, the mindfulness is definitely free from all concepts. And of course, when you walk in further and further, go deep. You have to learn to swim. Swimming not enough, you have to go deep sea diving. And why you want to go deep down? Because the Lord of Darkness is staying there down there. You've got to look for him and rattle swords with him. Because before you meet him, you meet with all his army, See a lot of jaws. See the giant squid, the giant octopus. You fight with one at the back, another one. So, but take it all in the light of training. Important thing is here, the thing here is you cannot think. Once you think, you go up again, and you just start going down again. Thoughts. But not always so bad. Sometimes it's tranquilo, very peaceful. But you have to start looking for the real thing. Now this level is what we describe as the Sankharas. As I said, it's more like a matrix. There's no body there. It is timeless, where space and forms are illusions. But they seem to be there, But the thing is, the nature of these formations is very funny. The main thing to remember, it is conditioning. Conditioning, that means its reality is, what you call it, reality is not independent. And that means it looks real, but it's not really so. And this itself has different levels depending on, this is experienced in different levels depending on your level, degree of mindfulness and insight developed. Once you're inside there, you have to have strong mindfulness and insight. Can one be inside this without mindfulness? But he wouldn't know what's happening to him really. And in the middle of it, you'll have all those defilements around him. The defilements are part of the matrix. When you're in there and you lose your mindfulness, all the defilements, the jaws will come and you will tear you to pieces and make you pass out you. Take for example a person, let's say, go into watch. Some people have so much pain, and pain is the ultimate reality. Then it can be so overwhelming that the person can be very disturbed. But usually in such cases, some conceptual is there. In short, we say you are already in the matrix. Whether you like it or not, you are already in the matrix, which is another word for samsara. But to see clearly as the matrix, as an illusion, the mindfulness and insight has to be there. So that type of mindfulness comes under here. This part. So when you've gone through this very clearly, it develops a strong detachment towards the formations. You develop dispassion. The Pali word is viraga. Strong detachment. Sometimes they use the word disenchantment. When the detachment is complete, then you go into the supramundane. Disenchantment is like the flight taking off from the ground. It's like you disenchanted from what? From something nasty, like, what is nasty? Like sweets. I call it evil sugar. So when you see that, danger, pericoloso, starts mantenere distanza. So but in this case it's not just sugar, it's everything. Whole of samsara. La terra della existenza. So you take off. Starting, as I said, as a grasshopper. After that, you become a butterfly, flip, flop, 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 flop. You see a nice flower, After that, you become a bird. After that, you become an eagle. Then you become aeroplane. Then you become Superman. After that, you take a rocket. You go higher than Pavarotti. So finally, you take it off from the world. It's not so simple. Some people, they go very detached, but they still run round. And even the boca of liberation, the door of liberation is there in front of them, they cannot see. So detachment is not enough. You have to be the insight, the mindfulness that can perceive the unknown. The faculty to know the unknown is stated in the text. It is a special. So then you go into the supramundane. So this mindfulness is transcendental. It is not Nibbana, it's the Lukuttara Citta. The Citta that takes the object, Nibbana as the object. So from there, it still develops. Now, this one is not easy to understand. Even people who have experienced supramundane find it difficult to understand how it works. Even the understanding of how the insight knowledges work here is not easy to understand because it's free from all concepts. Concetta nulla. How is it possible to know? Call it the anumana jnana, the inferential knowledge. It's something that after the experience of the insight come out, there is an impression to be had. Stop here tonight. Basta. The Chinese storyteller. They have this Chinese storyteller. Actually, the story come in parts. In Malaysia and in Asia, there's one very famous storyteller called Lei Tai So. So he tells story, how the people in the drama acts. And you talk about this great master. This great master said, "What do you want when you come here?" If you say like that, he goes to a young lady. And then when the young lady speaks, he says, "Oh, great master, I want to learn Kung Fu, avenge my death of my parents. You make a lady's voice now. So all the people are very interested. When the old ladies, young men, everybody will listen. And so they come a very critical point. Then they say, this hero was in the fight, and he took one palm up called the golden palm. And then the other bad guy came up with the blood claw. And then finally these two things come together. Okay, finish. This is something I learned from listening to the stories.